You know that good feeling, almost therapeutic, when a horror movie ends. You feel your body relax, the tension dissipate. You turn off the television, turn on the lights, maybe go get a glass of water from the kitchen, and the monster, the threat, stays there, trapped on screen, confined to a fictional universe. That deep relief of knowing that, no matter how scary it was just a story. A story contained within 2 hours. No, I want you to forget that. Forget the relief. Forget the safety of your living room. Now imagine, what if Jeepers Creepers existed in real life? He wouldn't be a movie monster. He'd be an astronomical event of terror, a recurring biological cataclysm, as punctual as the seasons. He would be definitive proof that the universe not only doesn't care about our existence, but periodically, it sends a collector to remind us of this in the most brutal way possible. And the worst part? There would be no end credits. The story would be ours, forever. In movies, we get used to the rules. There are protagonists, the isolated road, the bad decisions. There's the police trying to help. There's the psychic giving a warning. There's a narrative structure that gives us a glimmer of hope. In our reality, that structure would be the first thing to crumble. The threat wouldn't be local. It wouldn't be just one road in the middle of nowhere in the United States. It would be global. Imagine the information chaos during the first days. Reports would be fragmented, coming from all corners of the world, and at first, no one would connect them. A bizarre disappearance of climbers in the Swiss Alps, leaving behind only equipment and a strange smell of sulfur in the air. An inexplicable attack on a fishing boat in the Philippines, where survivors babble about giant leather wings emerging from the sea. An old, rusted truck, a model that shouldn't even be running, seen at extremely high speed in the Australian deserts, with no visible driver at the wheel. They would be just anomalies. Footnote news, macabre curiosities for mystery podcasts. The police in each country would investigate their isolated cases, always reaching a dead end. The autopsies, when a body was found, would be a horrifying puzzle. Victims with missing organs, but not in a surgical or common predatory way. It would seem they were harvested, selected with a purpose. And the strangest thing, in some bodies, parts would be found that didn't belong to the victim. Someone else's eye crudely sewn into the empty socket. Fingers from a different hand grafted in place of the originals. A grotesque human tapestry. Witnesses would describe something the mind refuses to accept. A tall figure, with a worn leather coat and a wide-brimmed hat, who moved with unnatural speed, who seemed to sniff the air like a hunting animal. And the sound, that melodic and childish whistle, the tune of Jeepers Creepers, echoing before each attack, transforming an innocent song into a hymn of death. At first, these witnesses would be discredited, labeled crazy, people in shock making up stories. Until the first direct confrontation. The first time humanity would try to fight back. Think about the scene. A SWAT team, or the army, heavily armed, surrounding that rusted truck on a blocked highway. Armored vehicles, snipers, orders, shouted through megaphones. The response wouldn't be surrender. It would be the truck door opening with a force that bends the metal, and that thing coming out, not in a hurry, but with predatory confidence. High-caliber bullets, which should pierce steel, ricocheting off the hardened leather as if they were pebbles. Spears and knives, forged from the bones and teeth of previous victims, being thrown with deadly precision, piercing bulletproof vests as if they were paper. In minutes, the elite squad would be decimated, and the creature? Unhurried. It would walk among the bodies, selecting what it wanted. Maybe a soldier's heart, still beating, another's lungs. It would tear out the pieces with its own hands, indifferent to the screams and blood. This wouldn't be a fight. It would be a slaughter. And it would be broadcast live to a world that, until then, thought itself at the top of the food chain. On that day, Humanity would learn, collectively and traumatically, that it is merely part of the menu. After the first cycle, Cycle 0, humanity would no longer have the luxury of ignorance. The next 23 years would be a desperate race for answers. And the conclusion would be terrifying in its biological simplicity. He's not a demon. He's not an alien. He's a life form with a fixed cycle. Every 23 springs, for 23 days, he awakens, hungry, needing to regenerate, and the hunting criteria. That would be the cruelest revelation. He doesn't choose randomly. He hunts by smell. The smell of something he likes, something he needs. And one of his favorite sources would be the chemical cocktail our bodies release under extreme fear. Your dread makes you delicious. Your terror marks you for death. Think about what this means for our society. Fear, a fundamental emotion for survival, would become a death sentence. The 23 days would be officially known as the harvest, or the season of silence. Governments would decree a mandatory global lockdown, but it wouldn't be like quarantine. It would be a planetary state of siege. Staying home wouldn't guarantee safety, because the smell of fear passes through walls. Paranoia would be the real pandemic. You'd start to distrust everything and everyone. That neighbor of yours, who's always been a bit anxious, he could attract the creature to your neighborhood. And you, if you feel uncontrollable panic, you become a threat to your own family. Imagine the moral dilemmas. Parents drugging their own children with sedatives so they don't cry, so they don't feel fear. Families falling apart because one member is considered a risk. A new and macabre industry would emerge. Pills and pheromone inhibitors, extremely expensive. Air purifiers that promise to filter the smell of fear. Emotional control training. Billionaires would build luxury bunkers, the sanctuaries, where they'd spend the 23 days in a drug-induced stupor, completely isolated from reality. For the rest of us, it would be the fear lottery. You lock yourself in your home, with windows and doors barricaded, trying not to think, trying not to feel. Every noise outside the wind, a breaking branch, a cat's meow would make your heart race. And with each accelerated beat, with each drop of cold sweat, you'd wonder, did he smell me now? Cities, once vibrant, would transform into silent tombs. A heavy, oppressive silence that would only be broken by the distant sound of a sudden scream, followed by the unmistakable roar of that infernal engine. And, perhaps, the melody of Jeepers Creepers being whistled in the wind, getting closer and closer, and everyone who heard would know, without needing to see, that another piece was harvested. And then, at the end of the 23rd day, as suddenly as it began, everything would stop. The truck would disappear. The attacks would cease. The sun would rise on the 24th day in a traumatized world, a world in mourning. But the horror wouldn't end. In fact, the real horror, the deepest one, would just be beginning. Because the true monster isn't the 23-day hunt. The true monster is the 23 years of waiting. The long night, as this period between harvests would be called, would change the essence of the human condition. How can you plan for the future? How can you dream, build a family, love deeply, knowing there's a cosmic clock, relentless, counting the seconds to the next personal apocalypse? Human psychology would be rewritten. Depression and anxiety would no longer be disorders. They would be the default condition of existence. Children would be born and grow up with this shadow. They wouldn't fear the boogeyman, they would fear spring. The calendar would become an object of terror. Each passing year would be one less year of peace. Art, music, literature, everything would be tinged with this existential melancholy. Our creations would reflect our condition as cattle waiting for slaughter. Religion and science would collapse and merge in bizarre ways. Cults would emerge, worshipping the creature as a god of renewal, a necessary angel of death, offering human sacrifices hoping to appease it. Others, desperate scientists, would dedicate their lives to trying to develop biological weapons, a virus that could infect him during hibernation. But how to find the nest? Where does he hide for 23 years? The answer would be the most frightening. Perhaps he doesn't even need a nest. Perhaps he simply ceases to exist in our dimension, to return punctually when the cycle completes. The progress of civilization would stagnate. Why explore space? Why invest in long-term projects? Every 23 years, everything stops. Our greatest achievements, our greatest ambitions, put on pause because of a cosmic predator. We would no longer be the dominant species on the planet. We would be a farm, a plantation that is harvested from time to time to keep another life form functioning. In the end, the existence of Jeepers Creepers wouldn't physically destroy us. He's not a mass extinction threat. What he would destroy would be something much deeper, our hope, our idea of purpose, our sense of importance. He would force us to confront the most brutal truth about our place in the universe. We are not special. We are not the apex of creation. We are just organic matter, a set of parts that, by an unfortunate twist of fate, are perfectly compatible with the needs of a life form older, stronger, and more fundamental than our own. So, the next time you watch a horror movie and feel that chill down your spine, enjoy it. Enjoy the fact that you can turn off the television. Because if Jeepers Creepers were real, the movie would never end. And the monster wouldn't be on the screen. He would be in our DNA, in the macabre bedtime stories we would tell our children, in the silent fear we would pass from generation to generation. And, most frightening of all, he would be in the parts of us that he carries with him. Eyes that have seen our world, hearts that have felt love and fear, keeping him alive, renewed with pieces of our own humanity, forever. Because every 23 years, the harvest must continue. And he always, always needs a piece of you. Jeepers Creepers is just the beginning. There are other horrors lurking, waiting to be imagined in our world. Leave in the comments which other movie monster you think would be terrifying in real life. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos.